Hello, beautiful internet family. My name is Dan Davis, and I'm the creative director here at DansTube.TV, as well as the Fearless Drone Academy, which is the ultimate online drone course for beginners. And today I've got a highly requested video. This is how to fly your drone in restricted air zones legally. Restricted air zones are also known as no-fly zones, and this is basically focused specifically on Australian drone pilots. So I'm using all of the information from CASA's website, and CASA is the governing body that overlooks all of the drone rules and regulations in Australia. So this video is specifically focused on Australian drone pilots. So make sure you check out your government's website to get up-to-date and relevant information for you. This video will hopefully clear up a lot of those questions that you have about flying your micro RPA in a no-fly zone. So let's get more specific here. A micro RPA is a drone under 250 grams. So that means that the Mini SE, which is the drone I tested for this video, the Mini 2, the Mini 3 Pro, as well as the Mavic Mini, they're all sub 250 gram drones, also known as micro RPAs. So that means that we can actually get away with flying within controlled aerodromes, where other drones that weigh more than that, you can't do that unless you have a license and clearance. So this is something that you need to be very aware of. This is only for drones under 250 grams. I'm referencing the official CASA document here, which is on page 14, and it's under the controlled aerodrome section. Now this is where it actually specifies that if you have a micro RPA, which again, a 250 gram, sub 250 gram drone, you're okay to fly within 5.5 kilometers of a aerodrome. So that means that you can fly in areas where you might not be able to with other drones that weigh more than that. So typically, if you're near an aerodrome, if it's near an airport, or any other area that's known as like a red zone or a no-fly zone or a restricted airspace or air zone, then that means you wouldn't be able to fly in those areas. So the thing that's so amazing about this ruling is it actually means that we can fly within that area. So that means I can fly in an area that typically I wouldn't be able to, which is Port of Brisbane. It's near the Brisbane airport, but basically because I'm not operating over the movement area, I'm not operating over or in the departure or approach path, and I'm also not creating a collision hazard to other aircraft taking off or landing. So basically, these are the things that you need to be clear on. This is what's specified through CASA's documentation. The main thing is focusing on that departure and approach path. Now, the best way to find this is downloading an app called OK to Fly. Once you load up the OK to Fly application, it will show you a lot of different colored zones in your area. Now, like I said, I'm at the Port of Brisbane, which is close to the Brisbane airport. But what I'm looking out for here is the approach and departure paths. So I can see very clearly where those paths are through the OK to Fly application. Now, other applications might make it a little bit more confusing, or they're not as clear about the approach and departure paths. That's something you need to be really focused on and really clear about. And as you can see here, I'm nowhere near those areas there. So if I was at the tail end or the front of either of those paths that you can see on the screen right now, then I wouldn't be able to fly there and I would be breaking the rules and the regulations and the laws. But because I'm off to the side there, and as you can see, the planes come in a completely different direction to where I'm flying my drone. I'm nowhere near that area there. So I'm right on the edge of the no-fly zone. So that actually means that I'm going to be approved to fly in this area. But then there's another process through the DJI Fly application where you basically have to, I guess, try to request flight in that area. So there's still a process involved, but this is the main thing you want to check through the OK to Fly application, just to figure out where the planes are going to be landing and taking off from. Once you connect your drone to the controller and you launch the DJI Fly application, it will figure out that you're in one of those restricted zones or one of those no-fly zones. So it'll actually pop up with a warning. So you can see on my screen, aircraft in enhanced warning zone, fly with caution. It's picked up that Brisbane International Airport is close by. And then it says continue flight confirmation checklist. I agree to assume full liability for flying in this area. So you have to tick that and then press confirm. And then that's the first step to start this process of requesting flight in that area. Another screen that will pop up for you is the recognition of an authorization zone. So it says one authorization zone nearby. So the authorization zone is Brisbane International Airport. And then once I press unlock, that's where I request officially to fly in this area. You can see entering an authorization zone may cause the aircraft to exit intelligent flight modes and hover. Unlock this area, question mark. So basically, this is something to be aware of, because if you've got it in a tracking mode or one of the intelligent flight modes, just be aware that it might cancel that operation based on where the drone is flying. So I actually like to just go manual flight at all times, you know, unless I'm in a very open area where I can test out some intelligent flight modes. I'm looking at international airport. So yeah, just keep that in mind, that it might stop the flight mode and it will just hover. So just keep an eye on the drone. If it's not moving anymore, it's probably just canceled that flight mode. Once you put in the verification code, then it will pop up with another screen. And this is where you have to check a few things. So you've got to check, I am qualified to fly in this area. I agree to assume full liability for flying in this area. And I agree to upload DJI device hardware information. So once those are ticked and you press OK, it will take you through to the next section. At this point, you need to land the aircraft and go to the safety settings. And then from there, there's an option for unlock a zone. And that's where you can import and enable the unlocking license. So as you can see, it's quite a thorough process. So we need to make sure that we follow this. You can't really skip around it. You know, they won't allow you to do that. But this is something really important to do. But again, just requesting to fly in this area, you're making sure you're following all the steps that are expected from you. So you press on the 3 dots in the top right corner, go to safety, and then go to unlock geo zones. And now this is where you can see the flight controller information, which is going to be blurred out here. You can see there are a number of licenses, which I've got 1. And the unlocked area is Brisbane International Airport. So then I can import to aircraft this license. And then once that has been imported and recognized and accepted, they will then give me permission basically to fly in this area. So then when you go across to the unlocking license list, again, we can see Brisbane International Airport. You can see some information there, but I have the option to select it and then actually enable that area. So you can see it's turned on and enabled and ready to go basically. So that's the entire process to access a no-fly zone, or for you to be able to get permission to fly in a no-fly zone, those restricted zones that previously you probably couldn't fly with a larger drone. So it is a little bit of a process. You're going to make sure you follow it thoroughly, make sure you use that OK to fly application, and make sure, you know, you go through it slowly just to understand what you're agreeing to and what you're doing. Read through those rules as well in the CASA documentation. And if you don't get approved in that area, for example, that would mean that you can't fly in that area. So you've just got to make sure that you read everything thoroughly. But then you can see from all the footage of me flying at the Port of Brisbane, an area that I've wanted to fly in for a while. It wasn't the most eventful flight because I didn't want to fly over anything, you know, people doing work or flying over the cranes or anything like that. So I actually stayed in an area away from everything. So it made the footage not as exciting, but because there was so much metal around, I actually had a lot of interference, and it really did play around with my flight a fair bit. So for me in this example, I was just showing you basically how to unlock in these zones that you previously couldn't fly in, but that metal really did interfere with the flight. It didn't give me much range. I found that, you know, I'd fly maybe 200 meters away and then it would start to cut out. So I had to keep it relatively close to me. And again, I wanted to keep it away from people working and all the trucks and, you know, all the machinery, because it is a little bit of a dangerous area to be flying over people. Like obviously you can't fly over people in general, but in an area like this where there's lots going on, I just found myself wanting to stay away just to show you this test. But you can see I was granted access to fly in this area. I was able to fly around and get some different shots of the colorful crates and some sand getting, you know, dropped down as some other trucks and diggers and things were kind of working. So that was cool. There was a lot of movement going on, and there was a nice backdrop of Brisbane City as well. So again, really cool. No issues with anyone like flying in this area, because again, like it's Port of Brisbane. That's why I wanted to test it there, because you wouldn't expect too many, you know, flights in this area, even like helicopters coming by, because it really is in the middle of nowhere, kind of like on an island. So yeah, really cool little test for me to show you how to do it. And for me as well, it was very interesting to test in this area. Like I said, I wanted to test it for a little while. So I think this is probably the best way to go about it for you. Just do your research, make sure you understand what you're agreeing to, and then test it out in an area once you've got approval. And I think you're going to have a lot of fun, because it does open up so many different options for you. And this is something that people who don't have a mini drone, unless they've got a license and permission to fly in areas, you know, the average person cannot fly in areas like this. So I hope that helped everyone, and I really do appreciate all of the support on my latest videos. Let me know your thoughts on this. Let me know what your process looks like. If you've got approval to fly in a different area, I'd love to hear about your experiences and what that was like for you, because I know there are probably some areas you want to check out but you can't because it's in a no-fly zone. So this kind of allows you to do that in Australia, following all of those rules and regulations and flying legally, but still being able to fly in a no-fly zone. So a lot of fun, very, very exciting for me. And I do appreciate everyone again for all the support. Thank you so much. And I will chat to you in the next video. Peace out.